Hello, my name is Shauna Concannon, and today I will be presenting our work on the use of personalised films for supporting public engagement with open data. This work was conducted while I was at the University of York with colleagues John Hook, Rajan, Parthiv, Shah, Davy Smith and Marian Ursu. The key aim of this work was to explore how we might use data-driven and personalised videos to help more people engage with and understand the data that exists about us in our society. We developed a prototype, personalised and data-driven film, and today I will describe this and the associated study, which probed how communicating with and about data via personalised film facilitates certain forms of engagement for the viewer. The work I'm presenting was guided by the following research question. Can personalised video stories provide more accessible, informative and enjoyable ways for the public to engage with the increasing amounts of data that exist around us in our society? As I'm sure you're aware, there's now an unprecedented amount of data being created and stored about our lives, the environments we live in, and the people we share them with. As our lives become ever more permeated with data, developing new forms of data engagement has become a growing concern within HCI. The emergence of human data interaction as a subfield in particular emphasises the growing importance of goals such as supporting human manipulation and analysis and sense-making of data, as well as delivering personalised, context-aware and understandable data from big data sets. And these are necessary precursors when providing access and understanding of data that is about individuals. This proliferation of data has the potential to be quite problematic in many ways, especially if it's only available to or understood by the large organisations who are gathering it. However, if it is possible to empower the public, the people who the data is about, to understand and act upon the insights within it, then there could be some really interesting benefits. But of course, motivating and facilitating this kind of mass inclusive public participation and engagement with data isn't an easy thing to do. And while we're seeing many organisations creating data portals and open APIs that enable people to access the data, simply being available does not equate to being accessible or understandable. Oftentimes, exploring raw data requires significant time and skills that most people don't have. And furthermore, it requires motivation. Sifting through data files and graphs to find insights about data sources probably isn't most people's idea of a fun afternoon activity. So for these reasons, there is a need for new services and experiences that present data in ways that a larger and more diverse demographic will be able to, and equally crucially want to use. So firstly, we think that video as a form has a lot of potential as a way to engage people with data. By presenting data in personalised videos, we could draw on the rich history of techniques from film, especially documentary, for making information interesting and understandable. Video content is also really popular, so therefore we're interested in whether watching a film about data and your data might be something that lots of people would be genuinely motivated to do. So by personalisation, what we're talking about is making videos that are personalised to the viewer. So unlike in traditional documentary films, for example, which are the same for everyone, we're interested in how we can tailor the content to be relevant to the person who's watching it. So these videos, unlike traditional film and TV, aren't static, but rather dynamic, enabling the sequences of frames to be reconfigured in different ways for the viewer. And because they are delivered over the internet, these forms, which we call object-based media, provide a different and personalised experience for every viewer. The film we created to explore our research question is about care leavers in England and the challenges they face when they turn 18 and have to start an independent adult life. So the film is based on data about young people who have interacted with the care system in the UK, and the story and its relationships with the data that underpin it are based on conversations I had with care-experienced young people. I'd like to acknowledge and thank Inspired Youth, who are an organisation based in York who work with care-experienced young people and who facilitated these dialogues. So people who have experience of the care system, for example, who've been in a foster home, a children's home, often don't have the same family connections that others would rely on when they're setting up their first home. So, for example, they can't stay at home necessarily for a few extra months until they've saved up money for a deposit on a first flat. or do simple things that we might take for granted, such as borrow some old furniture. The government recognises this challenge and provides certain support to care leavers to help them get going. So, for example, a setting up home grant to support them to furnish their own first home, and a council tax exemption to ease the financial pressure in the first few years. So while these are very positive policies in themselves, there's a problem in that the level of support that care leavers receive, and therefore their ability to face the transition to adulthood, can vary quite substantially based on where they live. Interestingly, there are quite a few data sets available that can tell us a lot about this situation and how it is likely to impact a care leaver depending on where they are in England. So the number of care leavers in a local authority, the setting up home grant amount available, the estimated costs of furnishing a flat, the availability of council tax exemption, and the cost of council tax charges by local authority is all openly available. And presenting this data to a public audience might be a powerful way to muster support for changes in policy. However, much of this data is currently found in CSV files that aren't likely to be practical or attractive for most people to look at. Also, each of these data files doesn't really tell the story in itself. Rather, to understand how they relate to the problem at hand, the data, their interconnections, and their potential impacts on real people's lives needs to be explained and illustrated. So by making personalised film about this topic, we aim to present the data from the previous slide to audiences in a way that might address these challenges. And in particular, we were interested in whether the film could assist viewers in understanding complex interactions between different data sources, if we could understand how these discrete data units impact on individuals' particular circumstances, and enhance users' interest in the topic by locating the narrative in their local context. The film is designed to detect where you are in the country and changes the aspects of what you see based on the data about your local area. And this feeds into what what support the character receives should she live in your area. So in the film, we explored a range of ways that we might personalise the telling of Brooke's story. Brooke is the main character in the story, based on data from the viewer's location. We use text-based titles to provide context that includes data that relates to the viewer's location. In the first act of the film, we show Brooke using a grant she's received from her local authority to furnish her house. What you actually see and hear Brooke being able to forward in this section is actually based on a combination of data about how much her grant would be and the data from a care leavers charity about the cost of actually setting up a home. And depending on the size of the grant, in different versions of the film, Brooke might be able to afford everything she needs or have to make some sacrifices like buying second-hand white goods. Or she may even be getting into debt before she's able to buy all of the essential items she needs. So with these scenes, we hope to give a really evocative illustration of how far different setting up home grants amounts would go in a way that an abstract number might not have done. As the film continues into the second act, where we see Brooke trying to secure her first job, we start to actually change the narrative structure of the film to illustrate the implications that the different data values have on Brooke's life. So for example, if Brooke has been able to afford a laptop in the first act, she's seen using it to prepare a CV. But if she hasn't, she's struggling to write one in a library, and this then impacts on her job application process. So our aim in adopting this adaptive structure in the film's story was to try and illustrate the human consequences that can result from the data and frustrate a care leaver's ability to succeed and affect their well-being. Finally, at the end of the film, the viewers are shown a map that can be used to explore the data values from across the whole of England. They can then choose to watch the film again with the data from another location to see how Brooke's story might have changed and unfolded differently. The aim of this structure was to allow viewers to make a comparison between the personalised data and interpretation that they've just seen and the broader context of the issues. We designed a study to assess how the two specific design choices impacted on our user engagement. In particular, did incorporating data from the viewer's local area strengthen engagement, and did rewatching the film promote fuller understanding of the topic at a national scale? We recruited 54 participants, of which 47 completed the whole study and are included in our analysis. Each viewer was asked to complete a previewing questionnaire to provide some demographic information about their prior awareness of the film's topic, and then they were asked to watch a version of the film. And finally, they were asked to complete a post-viewing questionnaire that asked about their experiences of the film and the knowledge and understanding of the topic. We divided our participants into groups, which each saw a different version of the film. Half of the participants watched a version of the film set in their local area, while the other half saw it from a random location. And half had the opportunity to rewatch, while the other half did not. So now I'm going to highlight a few findings. The first and most basic thing we were interested in finding out was whether the film actually helped people understand the topic and the data, and whether it persuaded them of its importance. So the quantitative analysis shows significant increases in viewers' awareness and perceived importance of the topic after watching the film compared to beforehand. Our qualitative findings of viewers' comments conveyed that the film aided their understanding of how the data related to people's lives and their lived experiences. And this helped them to relate and empathise with care leavers and the challenges they face in a way that they hadn't done before. Presenting personalised data in the context of a character's narrative was viewed as a powerful way to make data more interesting, more easily relatable, and more empathetic. One of the hypotheses we made when making the film was that including data that's personally relevant to a viewer would increase engagement. The quantitative analysis does not support this. Setting the film in the viewer's local area and using data from that area did not increase the viewer's reported empathy with the topic or their views on its relevance to their local community. But interestingly, while we didn't see any quantitative effect on understanding or empathy, viewers told us how motivated they were to find out how the film related to their local area when given the option. So those who were shown a non-local version of the film initially pretty much exclusively chose to rewatch it from their local area first when given the option. So this suggests that data personalization may still have an important role to play in encouraging engagement, even if it isn't as powerful a device for understanding as we'd originally hoped. In our evaluation, we were interested to find out whether rewatching from different locations was needed to understand the story as a whole and the national implications. And our findings showed that it increased viewers' understanding of the topic at a national level. Allowing viewers to browse data and review it from different locations was an effective way to put across an account of a person's own local data into a broader context. However, while many were happy to watch the film multiple times from different locations, some people reported some fatigue and tedium after the second and third rewatching. So an abridged version might be an alternative approach. While combining factual and fictional content facilitated an engaged and emotional connection to an otherwise unfamiliar topic, some viewers felt this led to a simplified representation that limited perceived objectivity. So these findings highlight potential issues of trust and representational complexity that may arise as data videos seek to aid users in understanding data and its implications by swapping free exploration for greater levels of interpretation from a defined authorial point of view. To conclude, personalized video narratives can offer a way into unfamiliar data, illuminate how quantitative data relates to a situated lived experience, and there's an appetite for insights into local and personally relevant contexts that can motivate engagement. However, there are a lot more questions to answer, and particularly we need to develop techniques that address how specific data instances and personalized accounts are contextualized within broader trends within the data. And I think I'll leave it there. Thank you.